All right, bro. Let's get this started. First time rolling
Yes.
with the Jetstream podcast. Um,
Excited, excited, excited.
yeah, the intro could use some work. But anyway, here we are. Talking about the Jets. Something we've been talking about doing for a little bit of time now. Finally got you operating here and
Yes,
ready to
yes.
roll. You got to work on getting your microphone and everything set up. But until then,
Gotta happen
we're
real soon.
yeah. Until then, we're stuck with what we got. Anyway, so a lot to get to. Considering we're about what 3 weeks away, a little less than that. What are we at? 19 days, 18 days?
Yeah, 2 weeks to the start of football starting tomorrow. 15 days, Thursday night
Yeah,
football. Good
still
way to
got one
start
more.
off the year.
Yeah, still got one more training camp game to go. Against the Giants after joint practice today, which
The
you want to
Snoopy
talk about that a
Bowl.
little bit? Well,
The
that's
Snoopy Bowl, right?
Snoopy Bowl. I don't even. Do they even call it that anymore? I know when
No, they
Rex was
don't.
there.
No, they don't
No.
call it anymore. It's an old thing.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it referred to that in a long time.
Yes, for old timers like me. I was born in '77.
I
You
don't even
what,
think.
'89?
I don't even think it was that long ago. I think it was just strictly when they got on MetLife, because MetLife is like their like logo had Snoopy on it. I think that's where it started.
It
From
probably
what
did.
I recall. I think that's where it
But I
started,
haven't
and
heard it in a while. But we just keep on calling it the Snoopy Bowl. You know.
I think they got rid of that lame nickname. But
Okay.
regardless, it's a one more preseason game, probably a preseason game that we're not going to see any starters.
No,
Um,
I don't
what,
think so.
yeah, what do you think about that? You like, are you in favor of seeing Rodgers or against seeing Rodgers?
I mean, I'm not in favor of seeing him at all. Let's just
Mhm.
get to week one. Let's get them all healthy. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know that the practice has been hard enough as it is. I know
Mhm.
they had 300 more reps this year during preseason than last year. If you heard that report, it was so it's pretty hard according to
Mhm.
Salah. So I think they'll be ready to roll
Yeah,
with
I think
him
so
coming
too.
out for one or not.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you felt like they were ready to roll last year too, even when we saw Rodgers in a limited time against the Giants. I mean, right down the field, scored a touchdown. It was against backups, yeah, but you know what you're going to get out of him. And Garrett Wilson looks like he's just on another planet again this year. It's gonna be the first time we're going to see him against with an actual quarterback that can throw the football, and that's going to be something
Yeah,
exciting to see for sure.
it's been criminal for 2 years for that poor boy.
Yeah,
I
it
think it's
has,
time
and
for him to reap the benefits for sure.
yeah, for sure. I mean, year three. What do you think out of Garrett Wilson? So like, I kind of, and you know me, I'm high on Garrett Wilson, but I feel like when you listen to how some people talk about this guy, um, I don't know, I feel like they're putting him to the moon already, and he's barely kind of eclipsed the surface. I understand the poor quarterback play, but what do you really expect out of him stat wise? Do you think he's like a 1,500 yard? Like, some of these numbers get thrown out there, and and I'll explain to you like why I kind of deviate from that a little bit.
I mean, as far as receptions wise, I mean, what there's 17 games. If he starts all 17, I mean, we're talking what 5 receptions a game is going to already put him at 85 catches. I mean, I see him well over 100 receptions. I think
I see
anywhere
him there too.
between
I have him there for sure.
yeah, anywhere between 105 to 110. I'm just predicting that. I think he's going to have anywhere from 13 to 1,400 yards.
That's where
I
I'm at too.
believe I believe he could have 11 touchdowns, 10,
Mhm.
11 touchdowns. And I think
Yeah,
that's a solid year.
and that's exactly kind of where I put him at. When you hear the way people talk sometimes, like this guy's going to shoot for like 17, 1,800 yards, which I mean, we see his talent, and yes, it is possible. But you also got to take a look at historically, and Devontae Adams didn't hit his 1,400 yard seasons until he was like 7 years into the league. I think it was his second year like as a full time starter with Rodgers. So I kind of look at that as like kind of a basis. So I feel like I got to temper expectations a little bit. But you know me, I think the world of Garrett Wilson. I was high on him coming out, and glad we have him. But you need to just lower things up a little bit. But it's preseason. We can all estimate.
Hey,
But anyway,
that's yes.
yeah, all good. Let's kind of move things along here. I guess I know the whole point of this conversation here is to kind of like give our little 53-man roster prediction. But let's start with one big thing here. The Haasan Redick situation is one that's kind of progressed longer than we expected. I did kind of expect him to not show up until he got his contract. I didn't expect for him not to get his contract for what are we at 3 weeks into training camp now, and I especially did not expect to see him request a trade already. So obviously a lot of red flags there, but what's your expectation? Do you expect him still to be here? I know Joe Douglas went out that message, um, but the longer this lingers, the longer it kind of the more it feels like something's going to break at some point.
Well, they use that word leverage on the Jets side right now. I mean, right now the Jets got him right where they want him.
Mhm.
So basically, I do not believe he will hold out. I think he'll be there for week one. I think
Mhm.
they will work something out in the next couple of weeks. Um, Otherwise, it could get really ugly.
What do you think something like that looks like? You think it's a long-term contract like he wants, or do you think the Jets end up getting exactly what they're looking for, and basically just guarantee his contract this year or something like that, and move on with life?
I mean, I think it could. I think the most it could. I think the most the Jets will offer is like a 2-year deal. They're going to
Mm,
put it on the Aaron Rodgers window. Give
mm,
him a 2-year deal, give him 22 to 23 million a year, and that's all. I don't think they'll go any higher than that.
yeah, I
You know,
I can't see it either, but it's such a weird situation when you trade for a guy that's, in it at 30 years old and, you know, he knows the situation. You don't usually get your second contract and third contracts after you hit that, 30, 31-year-old age. I don't blame him for what he's doing, but I think there's a way to go about it. We see what Matthew Judon's doing. He just got traded, similar trade package. Is Haason Reddick a better player? I think we can say that. It's not like Matthew Judon. It's not like they're worlds apart. Um,
they're not.
and the fact that very similar trade situation and Judon's suiting up and Hassan's not even showing up, and that's basically that's the bare minimum requirement the Jets gave the guy. Show up and we'll talk about it, and he's not even showing up. So it is a little weird situation overall, but yeah, I'm with you. At some point, I feel like it's gotta work its way out. Jets aren't going to trade him by their words, but you know, Dave Gettleman also said he's not going to trade Odell Beckham Jr. and a couple months later he was gone. So I mean,
Yeah.
this
They,
stuff all works its way out.
I'll be honest with you. The only way they would end up trading him is, let's say, come week one, week two, he's still not on the squad, and the Jets are balling, meaning they're getting after the quarterback, and they think they really don't need him. Then I think they would do a trade, possibly, at least
Mhm.
recoup what they could lose.
Yeah. And I mean, part of this too, like, and I know it's not the way that we kind of look at this. Like when the Jets traded for him, I forget the snap count. I think it was something like 70%, or 60%. I
I
think it
think
was
it was like
70%.
65% of the snaps, and it turns into a second round pick.
Yeah. So I mean, this kind of will work into their favor a little bit on that aspect because let's say he signs a week before the season starts. I mean, he could play right away, but he's going to have a ramp up period. They're not going to give him 70% of the snaps come day one. So that will help in that aspect. Obviously, not the reason that you make a trade for a guy like that. But
No.
I mean, at the end of the day, it could actually kind of work in their favor a little bit. But yeah, the Jets need him for day one. I mean, they have a
Well,
pretty light schedule to start things off, but they start things off with a bang against a Super Bowl contender and NFC champion last year. So um, they made this trade. They made this trade to have a player like him to compete with these teams, and it'd be nice to have him on the field, especially to start the season.
I agree totally with that. I think he'd be there.
Yeah,
There's no way. You don't see these things, go into the season. Very, very rarely do you. I know we're the New
yeah,
York
it's
Jets.
rare.
Things like this happen, but I
Mhm.
mean, I envision this thing to be over with probably next week, hopefully.
I think that's when you really take the next step because then it's not like he's. I mean, missing training camp's one thing. Training camp's over. Time to get ready for the regular season. But yeah, we'll see. Something's got
Yeah.
to
Did
give at
you
some point.
did you hear that the reason there was a room? I don't know where it came from, but someone had stated that there's a possibility that he's like taken a step down, like as far as his gameplay isn't as good as he was, and that's the reason why he didn't show up for camp. Did you hear about that?
I mean, I saw him play last year. I mean, the guy got 10 sacks last year. I mean, we're not in a position as a team, and we haven't had an elite pass rusher like that since. I mean, we had one last year in Bryce Huff, and we let him walk. Obviously, that's
Yeah,
a story for another day. But I mean, we haven't had a pass rusher of his caliber since, at least on the edge, since Abraham. I mean, we've had little players here and there show flashes in the pan. Calvin Pace, had a couple of good seasons with us. Um, Muhammad Wilkerson, couple good seasons with us, maybe one that got him the big payday. But the Jets
Vernon
aren't in a
Golston.
position where they can be picky on pass rushers.
Yeah,
Colston?
Vernon.
Oh, shit. Damn. Oh, God,
Oh
the days of
man.
Colston. What
Oh
could have been if
jeez.
that guy was even halfway decent as a pass rusher in Rex Ryan's
Oh,
defense, but oh
tell
my
me
god.
about it. Jeez.
Uh, Jesus. Anyway. All right, so that's enough with the Hassan Reddick stuff. This is like kind of boiling over and needs to just come to an end at some point.
Totally
Um,
agree, brother.
yeah. So 2 weeks through preseason, first week against Commanders, second week against the um, Panthers. What are your takes from the first couple weeks? Who do you think's kind of really made a name for himself these first couple weeks? Who do you think maybe has
I
gone the
mean,
opposite direction?
we could talk. Let's start off with Braylon Allen. I mean, the kid's a
Hmm.
beast. I mean, he's showing a lot of promise. I can't wait to see him right behind Brees. And just going at it. I mean, it's going to be. They're gonna definitely hit the trenches running hard. They're gonna be
Yeah.
run. They're gonna be a run oriented. I think it's gonna be like 65-35. I'll tell you, that's what I think they're gonna do. They're gonna just ground and pound all the way.
Mm.
I like seeing him. I liked what I seen out of Olu. He's been going back and forth between right tackle and left tackle. Has been playing pretty well.
Mm.
Even Isaiah Davis. I mean, he's been pretty good too. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Jets hit it in the draft. Still not seeing enough from Malachi Corley. He had a couple of decent catches. I think more of what you've seen positive out of him is in training camp itself. I feel like he's made some pretty remarkable catches in training camp, but just haven't seen enough out of him from these preseason games. But I mean, he's also got not. I mean, Adrian Martinez and Andrew Peasley throwing the ball, so it's what
yeah.
you can take from that. Um, but yeah, I think the Jets hit it with these offensive players. Fashanu has been pretty solid on the. I mean, I liked the way he played the first game. Left tackle was basically a brick wall on that side. And then when he switched over to the right side, I mean, he's not as solid as he was on the left, but it's not like he was like a bum out there. He's definitely your second string left tackle, second string right tackle. Um,
100%. He'll be that swing tackle for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, for this
I
coming
don't
season.
I don't see a situation where Carter Warren or Max Mitchell playing a game before he does at any point this season.
I mean, he's
So
a
that's
first round pick, and he's got a lot of promise.
mhm,
You know, it's a big boy.
yeah. I know we talked about earlier not seeing these stars playing, but you know when you see how like strong the second string offensive line is playing, you know that first string offensive line has got some friggin' pop to them. I know.
Who would have thought coming into this year? Hopefully, knock on wood, our offensive line struggles are over with. So I mean, I really have faith in the offensive line this year. I think they're going to do well. It's going to take some
Mhm.
time to gel because they're a new unit, but it'll be fun to watch.
Well, they revamped the entire thing. I mean, they got 3 brand new starters on this offensive line. Um, to a whole brand new left side and a brand new right side. I was talking about the other day with you know, when you look at the end of the season, Titman was our most reliable offensive lineman.
Right?
And now you look at this season and he was probably the one with the most question marks based on,
Your
he started off
snapping
training
ability.
camp with, yeah, he started off training camp with some snap issues and stuff like that. So it went from like he's our most reliable, now all of a sudden he's the one that's the biggest flaw. And it seems like he's taking care of that. He played in the first game. I only saw a couple snaps that you know, maybe like kind of got me like, all right, it wasn't dead center. Like I saw one Tyra Taylor had to reach out to the right for a little bit. Um, but it wasn't a big deal. Tyra kept his eyes downfield. It didn't. I don't think it really kind of mattered too much. And the fact that it was only one play, tells you he's got that under control. And I don't think we even heard much of it since
No,
that first week. Or I
yeah,
think it
when
was
you
like
don't hear nothing, it's pretty awesome. I
yeah.
mean, that shows that they're working on it and it's getting handled.
Mhm. And speaking of centers, I obviously I don't think that this is going to be an issue at all, but Xavier Newman's showed some solid light as a backup center. He's been solid these last 2 games. I think he's somebody I didn't really expect, and we'll talk about this obviously as we go through. But he's someone I definitely think has cracked that list of potentially making the 53-man roster for sure.
I think so as well.
Player I wasn't expecting. He's shown a lot in these limited preseason games. So with that being said, put together a little slides here, and it's gonna
All
we're gonna
right.
go position by position. We'll make this pretty easy. Pop it open here in a second. Let me know once it
Okay.
pops up on you.
I'm good.
All right. So we'll start things off with the quarterbacks. Obviously, um, last year the Jets kept 2. I think they eventually like leaked in a third quarterback. Shortly after training camp closed. So where I think this is going to be a little tricky. Actually, you start first. So, do you see the Jets keeping a third quarterback? We'll start
No,
there. No.
no. I think they're just keeping two quarterbacks and they're going to roll that way. I mean,
Yeah.
they need all the help on the 53 they can get.
Mhm.
Having a third quarterback is not in their best interest right now.
Yeah. Agreed. That's exactly where I stand too. This team is too talented. Because I went through this a little bit. I'm not sure how much time you took on preparing for this, but it's it's gonna be some tough numbers here. To try and keep it 3 players. Where I see there being some difficulty, obviously with Jordan Travis. Um, I think with Jordan Travis, they're probably gonna put him on IR. I'm not sure where he's at with his injury. I know he's been practicing and stuff like that, but I think he's like on like a non-football injury list. But
Yeah, I think he is on that list. So
mhm,
they're probably going to redshirt him this year.
I think so too. But I believe, and I'm not. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure in order for you to designate someone as an injured player, you have to put them on the 53-man roster first. So I think
Interesting.
that's going to be a little play in the whole situation of it. That's where I see them potentially keeping 3 quarterbacks, but I do agree with you. Once we get through that initial waiver wire, they're going to put him on the injury list and hopefully get one of these guys that they cut back in the building pretty quickly before someone can snatch him up.
That's for sure.
So I think we're in agreement there. 2 quarterbacks,
Yep.
Tyrod and Aaron Rodgers, making the roster as the 2 quarterbacks. Move on to running backs. So last year, the Jets kept 4 running backs here. I put this on all the slides, just a little header. Tell us how many players they kept last year. Where are you at with this one? Do you see us keep it 4? We stick with 3?
I think we go three running backs, and I think you have
Mhm.
them in the right order there. Brees, Raylan, and Isaiah Davis. Those are the three they're keeping.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go too. I mean, you can usually tell where a staff feels about a certain player by the reps they get and where they're getting those reps. And when you see Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis both getting those reps early in the game, and then in the third quarter, you're seeing a lot of Izzy coming in. And he's shown a little bit better. I think Izzy has actually shown improvement from what we saw last year. It's just really difficult when you have 2 running backs in their rookie years, both excelling way past him. I think Izzy's going to be a priority practice squad player, but I don't think he's going to make the 53. So I'm in agreement with you there. So we're at 5 players so far. Let's keep. I'll notch this stuff down. We have
All right.
5 players so far.
Yeah, you're the
Um,
accountant. Get the numbers straight.
yeah. Okay. Wide receiver. This is one I kind of deviated a little bit from here a little bit. So 7 were kept last year, and the 7 obviously included Irv Charles, Jason Brownlee as kind of your back end players. Um, so a lot of similar players on this roster compared to last year. So where are you at with this? Do you think that we're going to stick with the same number, or you think
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be 7.
all right, who are your guys? Obviously the top. I kind of tried
Yeah,
putting
you
this
got
order.
Garrett Williams, Gibson, Corley, Lazard, Brandon Smith, and I think Eric Charles.
You think Irv Charles makes it?
Yeah, he's
So
a
yeah,
special teamer too.
this is where I kind of differentiate a little bit. Um, I definitely have the 5 obvious ones. That's a no-brainer. Um, and the only other player I could see making it out of this list, I mean, I know Brandon Smith's shown a little promise in the preseason, but again, this roster is way too strong to, kind of mess around with somebody that's like a fringe 53 guy.
Right.
Um, there's a lot of other areas that need to be worked on overall. Um, the only other player I could see really making it on this list would be Irv Charles or Jason Brownlee. I think we stick with 6 on this list. Um,
Right.
but I think that list comes to a close with either Irv Charles or Jason Brownlee. Um, that's probably where I'm
I
at with
mean,
this.
you know
So
what? I mean,
you're
they
saying
kept
7?
7 last year. I mean, if they're looking to create more roster spots, you go with 6. I mean, I see Brownlee, going to the practice squad 100%. But you never know. I mean, there's a lot of players out there.
Mhm. It's a little bit of a game too when you're doing this whole thing because I mean I could totally see the Jets just sticking with 5, and then practice squatting 2 players. Do you actually think somebody's going to pick up one of these players and put them on the 53-man roster? Because that's what has to happen at the end of the day. A team can't pick up a player and just put them on their practice squad. They have
That's
got to
true.
put that player on their 53. So
Which makes it harder.
yeah, which makes it harder. But obviously, the Jets are going to lose some players. That's for sure. That's what happens to good teams. Good teams lose good players. Poor teams pick up those good players that get dropped. We were fortunate enough with it with Quincy Williams that one year. I mean,
Oh
we were
yeah,
14. I mean, Jacksonville wasn't a great team by any means either that year, so I don't know what they were doing, getting rid of a good
yeah.
player.
They
But we ended up
we're
getting
looking
lucky
for
with that one.
striking gold with that one for sure.
So you locking in with 7 on this one? You're going with
Yeah, I
Brownlee
was.
and
Yeah, I think they're gonna end up keeping Irv Charles there, only because he's definitely. I mean, Brandon Smith, Irv Charles, those guys are special team guns. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go aggressive here. I just we could lose Brownlee for sure. We can lose Irv Charles, who's a special teams ace, but I actually, and I know it's going further a little long. I I actually like what I'm seeing out of Stiggers on as a gunner. I mean, I think he had an outstanding play in that last preseason game against Carolina. Went down the field and basically just shoved the blocker into the returner.
Yeah, that
And
boy.
that's high IQ kind of play right there. And I think that's going to be his niche for now until something happens, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I think that's gonna be his thing for now until he gets more playing time. So I'm
Yeah, I
gonna go
totally
5.
agree.
You
Okay.
go with 7. So you got less room for other positions. I got a little bit more room to play with.
Jeez.
Uh, tight ends. Jets kept 4 last year. So I put fullback in this list too. 'Cause a lot of these tight ends they play both roles. Like I know Kenny Yeboah can play both. Ruckert's lined up in the backfield too. Seth Kick, he's an undrafted free agent we brought in specifically to play fullback. Um, obviously, the top 2 are sticking with the roster. Where do you see the rest of this depth chart facing out?
I mean, I've seen them keeping 3,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in order. I have it Conklin, Ruckert, and Yaboa. Those are the
Yeboah.
3. Yep, those are the 3 I see them keeping, and the rest are Sayonara.
That's kind of where I'm at too a little bit. I just know. So I'm at 4. I just don't know which fourth. Um,
Who's the
I,
4th?
yeah, who's the fourth? Because the Jets like to play with fullbacks. Um, But are they going to play with a fullback as much as we've seen them in the past? They have 3 outstanding running backs that, in a lot of situations, they're going to all be on the field. Not all be on the field, but
At
multiple are
least
going to be on the field.
multiple. I agree
Brees
totally.
Hall can move to receiver. Isaiah Davis, we've already seen in preseason him get flanked out to the slot to catch short passes. Um, they're going to be very multifaceted. It's what we saw out of Green Bay the last year that Rodgers was there, or sorry, second to last year that he was there when he won his last MVP. It was, a lot of multiple running back sets, getting guys out, and that's when they had a strong running game, and that's exactly what Aaron Rodgers wants. So, who the fourth guy is, I mean, they seem pretty high on this guy, Stefchick. So
That's
I don't
who
know.
they traded for, right?
No,
Were
he's
they?
undrafted free agent.
Oh, he was the okay.
They seem pretty high on him, but they also went out and got Ferkser, and um, I think that gives you a little more flexibility with being able to have a guy that can line up in the backfield and play fullback. So I think ideally for them would be to keep 3, just because, like I said earlier, I mean,
You need
it's
to
very
create room.
difficult. It's very difficult to play with fringe players when you have, offensive linemen, defensive linemen that you can argue um, should make this team and probably won't make this team because of just the amount of player that they have there. So I'll lock in with 4. I think they end up keeping one of those players, either Ferks or Sepchik, to play fullback.
Okay.
Um, so I'm at 14. You're at 15. So you gained a little ground on me here a little
There
bit.
you go.
All right.
Oh
And
boy.
we go with the offensive line here. A lot of small font here because basically,
Big list.
oh yeah, you got a classroom full of players here. But I kind of tried dividing this a little bit here for us. So left hand side, you're going to see basically, or what happened there? When
You went to oh, there you go.
Yeah, it jumped. Got too aggressive here. So left hand side, you're gonna have basically the players I think are your pencils in players. Right hand side are probably the guys that we haven't heard of. Probably got a little bit more of an outside shot of getting in. Um, Last year we kept 10. I have them keeping 10. Little cheat sheet. The 10 players on left hand side are the guys I think that are going to make this team.
I
Um,
yeah, I agree too, man. 10.
you're on 10 too.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the 10 that you have written on the left there are exactly in that order.
I think Hanson and Glazer are going to be, similar to Izzy, high priority waiver guys. Because obviously we know the Jets can't have enough offensive linemen. We saw how miserable it was last year. But so I think those guys are going to be, the first knocks we make if they don't get picked up by another team. Obviously, that's going to be the tricky part to this whole thing.
Yeah, that definitely will be.
Keep this thing moving along.
Yeah, buddy.
Defensive line, again, last year we kept 10 here. That's basically been what the Jets have been the last couple of years. They've been around 9 or 10 defensive linemen that they end up keeping. So I guess you start off here. So again, left-hand side, I kind of stuck with who I felt had a high chance of making the team. Redick makes this list because although he's not signed and although he's not showing, he'll have to make the roster. And then similar to the Travis situation, they'll have to designate him and potentially make a decision from there. But so where you at? I think there's 9 on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's 9 on
I think definitely is going to be 10 players being kept
Mhm.
here.
Right.
Between your defensive ends and your inside the trench.
At
I
least
mean,
the big question, big question. On the right-hand side, the top 2 names are the ones that get the most talk about. Are you a McGregor guy or are you a Watts guy?
I'm actually a McGregor guy.
Same here.
I mean, he's been showing up, man. Well, he's been killing it.
Mhm. I think
He's
they're so equal, like, player-wise. I just think McGregor has a little bit more of that pass rush to him,
he
than
does.
Watts does, but both I'd be happy with keeping either one, but the biggest thing I have on McGregor, and I know obviously is the high thing, but what the day that the Jets got this guy as an undrafted free agent, the first thing I thought about is that guy looks exactly like Max Crosby. Looks like
With a
he's
guy,
got the frame, he's got the length, he's got the arms.
the big
Obviously,
boy.
undrafted free agent probably isn't that, but he was a player that they got lucky with. I know, expect to be a high third day pick. They end up getting him undrafted, but yeah, that's the guy I'm hoping that we end up locking down on this roster. But again, this is a situation where I think Eric Watts could make it as like a depending on what happens with the Haasan Redick situation. If they do have to list them, they're going to still want to keep 10 guys, and I think Eric Watts will be that 10th guy until they have to make a decision with Haasan Redick at some point.
And they and unfortunate, you got players like Tanzel Smart, going to go again. I mean, that guy's been a journeyman for us for years too. Would
Yeah,
love to have. It's sad to say, but I mean, we're pretty deep in this situation here, so that I'm not opposed to it at all.
I don't think he made the initial 53 last year either.
He didn't. No.
Yeah, I didn't think he did. I don't think he's gonna make it this year. I think they brought him back on and off as like a practice squad guy. And I think that's probably gonna be the situation for him again this year. But yeah, Um, I think this defensive line room is just way too strong. Also,
It's
like
definitely talented for sure.
I haven't seen an update on Fotu. I know left practice like a couple days ago with an injury. I feel like we would have heard something if it was serious, but
I heard he won't be ready until at least maybe if they're lucky week 1. I heard it was a hamstring injury.
yeah. So if he's ready week 1, great. If he needs more time, that could also put another
Definitely,
body in temporarily.
yeah, that's for
Um,
sure.
so yeah, but I'm with you on that. I think 10's the number here because as we continue with this defense, it's gonna get harder and harder
It is for
to
sure.
find more players.
This is where all the talent is.
Hmm.
Top 5 unit, you know?
Yeah. Linebackers, Jets kept 5 last year. I personally think that number's gonna stay the same, and I think it's gonna be the same 5 players they kept last year as well. Mosley, Williams, Sherwood, Barnes, and Surratt.
Barnes is Surratt. Yeah, I'm on the par with you in this one as well. I say
Yeah,
5
I
as
think this one's
well.
kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah,
Um, could one of these other guys make it? Possibly. Just haven't seen enough out of these guys to um, say that
just
they're gonna take
tell
the
you
roster
anything
and spot
different
everyone
for
else.
sure.
Mhm. So that one's a pretty easy one, and we're approaching the end here. Got a couple more spots here, and then obviously it's
What do we
definitely.
what's the count right now?
Oh yeah, that's right. So you're at 40 players. I'm at 39. So
Oh boy.
you got 13 more players to keep, and this is where it gets hard. So
It does.
I was shocked when I saw this number for cornerbacks. The Jets only kept 4 last year. That was a huge shock to me. Usually, you see teams keeping around 6 or 7 here. Um, I think obviously the Jets keeping 7 receivers last year probably took a spot away from the cornerback spot. Um, but yeah, so this is where like I was looking, I was all right. We kept 7 last year. Let's keep 7 receivers this year. Let's see. But then it's like, oh wait, we were only able to keep 4 corners, so we got to find some way to kind of finagle a little bit here. So yeah, let's go with the cornerback spot here. And how many are you keeping?
Jeez. All right. So this is a good list here too.
Hmm.
I have on my list, which I've done here. Hold on one second. I have them keeping 5. And the 5 I have them keeping a source, of course, Reed, Carter, Stiggers, and Eccles. He's not on this list, Ant.
Who's that?
Brandon Eccles.
He didn't make the cut.
What do you mean to make the cut? He's on. He's not.
He
He's on
didn't
the
make the
team.
list.
He's not on. Oh wait, is his name actually Brandon Cordington?
No,
Oh,
Codrington's the no. I skipped him for sure. That's where I was lost. I knew I kept someone else too. And
oh.
that's who it was. Um, so I have yeah. So here we are. So I'm at 47 now, and Eccles was one of my guys I kept. He just didn't make this list, unfortunately. Got to apologize to him.
That's all right.
Jeez,
You
you got guys
you
like
probably
Trace
wrote
Young.
Brandon. When you wrote Brandon, you thought you put it in Eccles by accident. You didn't realize it. You know, it
So
happens.
yeah, my number for corners here was 7. Um, Sauce obviously, DJ, MC2, Stiggers, Converse, um, Eccles, and then Codrington has shown a lot as a returner in these last couple of games.
He
I
has.
think
He has.
I think that's where the numbers kind of flip from last year to this year. Um, so that's where I have it here with Codrington making the team, being like that surprise guy. Um, if the Jets want to play some roster flexibility stuff, it could be a situation where they walk out with letting Eccles walk again. But I think it's fair to say that that's our starting guys.
No, I agree. I mean, like when you said 4 last year, I was like, I don't know, man. But 5, 6, I see what you're saying. You're saying 7 though, so you're saying extra 3.
Well, I think so. I think you you got to look at it from a special team side of it because
Okay.
obviously that's where these guys are going to get the most playing time. If we're sacrificing Irv Charles on one side, at least for me, I'm sacrificing Irv Charles on one side. You have Stiggers that'll take that role, and then Codrington has been pretty efficient on these kick returns, especially with the new rule. Um, Anybody who excels, they're gonna get an eye for sure. I think
Uh,
Codrington's a player that if we don't bring him in, I think a team will snatch him up because of his return prowess.
yeah, this is probably where I'm going to need to focus a little more myself on the 53. Um,
Mhm,
I think I have another one or two left, and I think that would probably be where I think Cardington will come into play here.
mhm.
You know,
Did you say 6 initially or 4 or 5?
five.
5?
Yeah,
Alright. You're at 45. Yeah, you're gonna have a few roster spots, I think, left.
yeah.
'Cause
Oh, we
all we
still
have
got
left is safeties. I'm actually at 47. I was actually at 11
offensive line or defensive line.
with the defensive lineman.
Well, it's a good problem to have. You know, if you're at
Yeah.
50, 51, you can claim some people off of waivers.
Yeah, I guess we can go
It
back
works.
to it because that I how did I miss this guy? Um, Leonard Taylor III is actually the one I was
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot
and
about
he
that
didn't make
kid.
my list either. What happened there?
I
That's
didn't
where I'm
see his name.
confused. Yeah,
All right,
see? My geez. Eccles and Taylor both didn't make the list.
and he's going to make the team.
Oh, yeah. Taylor, I think, is gonna make the team for sure.
Oh yeah.
That's where I was confused. I only saw 10 names, and I was like, "Alright, I feel
No,
like
it's
I
funny
my
when I
numbers
was
are off."
going through that list, I was like, I didn't even realize it, but I'm like saying to myself, there was somebody else, and then when you brought it up, I was like, yeah, that's him, Leonard Taylor, the
Yeah.
third, for
So,
sure.
that's actually why I'm at 47. You're at 45, you're gonna have a little bit of room. So let's move
Well,
over
I
to
want to bring
safeties.
in. Well, let's bring in. Let's add +1 onto the defensive line now for me because Leonard Taylor is going to come in.
Alright, so you're at 46 now.
Yeah,
Alright, and then you're questionable on Codrington, you said, so you might
yeah.
end up being at the same number I do. Go over to safeties. I had the Jets keeping 3 here. Tony Adams, Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark, being the obvious ones. So,
I don't know that
and
they liking this kid Isaiah Oliver and Jalen
that's
Key.
that's where I was gonna get a little bit here. I think Key, they'll practice squad stash. I think that's what they'll do with him. Um, Oliver was the one that I was kinda looking at for the most part and saying it could if you're gonna keep Oliver, you're gonna cut fat somewhere else at corner probably, at least for me. So, if you look back at corner, um, they're not gonna let Converse go. He's been solid this whole,
He has
preseason.
been. He has been. I mean, he just got
Um,
burnt that one play, but after that, he was lights out.
that might be a situation, like, for you with keeping Eccles and for me as well, keeping Eccles, I think that's gonna be like a little scratch right there is, do we keep Eccles? Do we keep Oliver? And that's probably the tiebreaker right there for them too.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah,
It
Oliver was
got
the one I
tough.
was eyeing for sure. But
You
I'm gonna
know.
stick with 3 for now. So I'm at 50, you're at 49. You got room for one more unless you wanna keep 2 kickers.
Well, no, don't we keep what's his name there? Our long snapper.
Uh, well, here's your specialists. So you got
Yeah.
Hennessy obviously gonna make it. Morstead's obviously gonna make it. Zerline's obviously gonna make it. I think that's the obvious one. So
Yeah, they
that's
got to keep
my
all three of
53.
those.
That's my 53. You're at 52. You got to find one more player somewhere.
All right, so I'll probably add in Coddington.
All right. So yeah, I think we're pretty solid there too.
Yeah,
Um, and that's it. That's the Jets
that was
53 man roster in a nutshell, man. And this is our first
it's
podcast. We went 10
you know
minutes
it's
over.
funny like we're going through that list. I mean, come day where Salah has to put it all together, man.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be as easy because he creates a lot of a lot of one on ones with these kids. A lot of emotions are involved.
Mhm.
You see these kids practicing like you've seen them practicing. Some of them
Mhm.
are just not going to make it. They're just not going to make the cut,
That
and
was a
they
big deal with the Hard Knocks last year. That's why they didn't want it initially. They didn't want to get that emotion on the cameras.
Yeah. I mean, they've been playing good. I mean, listen, let's just see what they have to offer at the I mean, this is the last week here against the Giants, you
Yeah.
know. So
Mhm.
that's why I don't want the starters playing. I want to see what these kids actually got. Let's do it.
Yeah. The next time we talk on this is next Wednesday again.
Okay.
Um, and at that point we'll have the 53 man roster. So we'll have to compare our list here a little bit, see where we went completely off, because there's going to be players that make it that we didn't expect.
I agree
There's
totally.
there's players that are hiding. There's players that are keeping off the field a little bit here, just to whatever. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's
just
definitely be some shockers.
I mean,
And
yeah, at
obviously
least
the gymnastics.
like one thing for sure, if they do decide to keep a third quarterback, who's getting shafted? We don't know.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
going to
but
be
I
one of
think
those players we're
that'll be a
talking
quick
about
fix. Hmm.
for sure.
I think that'll be a quick fix for them once we get through the waivers, and they'll adjust. They'll move people around, whatever, and they'll get players back. But um, it's about being smart. We lost out on a couple years ago with Jason Pinnock, and he went over to the Giants because of the same situation. Jets thought they can be smart and stash him and pick him up in a couple of days,
Never
but
worked out.
Giants jumped on him, claimed it was a waiver wire pickup, and he's been a starter there ever since. But anyway,
And
that's it for us now.
it was a
We'll do
it
this
was a
again.
good day or a good
Mhm.
night, as I say. All
All right.
right, man.
So all right.
See you later.